Let me say this. First things first, I'm definitely apt to defer to both of y'all, not just because y'all played in the NFL, but y'all are two of the most intelligent brothers that I know, and I'm proud to call y'all my brothers. But I will tell you right now, I would respectfully disagree with both of you in this regard. Take away some of the elite players, the Drew Brees, the Russell Wilsons of the world, and others. And what it comes down to is 1,696 players, the vast majority of them. 53-man roster, along with the 32 teams, 53-man roster on each team. And then you've got 5 practice squad players at least for each respective NFL team. So you do the numbers, and it comes down to about 1,696 players. More than 1,600 of them are going to need to play, and the NFL owners know it. Now, that doesn't give them a license to exercise a dereliction of duty and not put forth the necessary effort to make sure that every safety protocol measure is exhausted. There is no doubt about that. But in the end, come the start of the regular season, they can fret over showing up to training camp. They can fret over preseason games. But when that NFL season is scheduled to begin, there is no doubt in my mind that every single one of the owners in the National Football League, the vast majority of whom are faceless, is going to go about the business of handling their business. And one of the reasons that I religiously bring up to Max Kellerman, guys, is this, because he makes a lot of valid points when he's arguing about these things. But I always counter by saying to him, if they had come to America and said, excuse me, we need you to sit out this amount of time because we'll have a vaccine by that time. And as a result, there will be a return to normalcy at that time. It's a lot easier to ask people to make the necessary sacrifice because there's a definitive end date to everything. But because it's up in the air and because we religiously see things moving, it's mobile, and adjustments have to be made. We're seeing in New York City the curve being flattened and deaths being at a minimum to what it is in Florida, Arizona, LA, Texas. The fact of the matter is, because it's so up in the air, people are not going to allow their life and their livelihood ravaged because of a maybe, regardless of how dangerous the situation is. It's incredibly unfortunate that that is the reality, but nevertheless it is. You got billionaire owners at the end of the day that are going to be about their bottom line. The NFL ultimately will get on the ball and address the safety protocols to the degree that it should, and they're going to be about making their money. The vast majority of players who haven't made tens of millions of dollars, if not more, they're going to ultimately capitulate to the situation because they've got families to take care of. And as a result, the season is going to go on. I get where y'all are coming from.
Yeah.
I understand that y'all are not saying anything that's wrong. You're absolutely right about what should transpire. But we all know that when the regular season starts, they're going to start the NFL season.
You're right about a number of things, but let me tell you where I disagree with you about the players, the other 1,600 players. The 1,600 players, that's why the media attention and public opinion matters, because nobody wants to be that guy. We're talking about a day and age now in the past where players would go on strike and some people would cross the line and be scabs, and they were just called nameless, faceless scabs. Can you imagine a scenario where all the public is on the side of the star players, and then you're one of these other players who are saying, I'm going in anyway. I don't care about what Drew Brees says. I don't care about what anyone else says. Like, then those guys become the villain. I don't imagine that any of those guys are interested in doing that. They were
Can I
much
answer that,
rather
Domonique?
have solidarity with their group, of course.
The reason why I disagree with you respectfully on this is because it's one thing if we're just on the outside as a public looking in and it's about them. But the problem is the same sacrifice that the owners will ultimately ask them to make is what the American public is doing every single day. You got people going back to work, working a 9 to 5. They don't want to go to work. They don't want to endanger themselves. They don't want to find themselves in precarious situations. But nevertheless, that's what they're forced to do because of it, which I think will dissipate the level of sympathy and empathy they might have towards those NFL players.
They don't have sympathy. Go ahead. What?
Go ahead,
No, I listen. I think. Listen, Stephen A. Dominic and I agree that the season's going to play. There's no question about it. I mean, we're talking about mass sums of money that nobody's going to want to miss out on.
Right.
What this boils down to.
That's all I'm saying.
This is ultimately a PR battle, and Dominic knows this as well as anyone else. The NFL, they are masters when it comes to the PR battle.
Oh, yeah,
And
they
what
got
you
power.
saw from the players is that this is an all-out frontal assault as far as winning over the PR battle, over certain stipulations that the players would like to see in place in order for the season to be enacted. I don't disagree with what you're saying, Stephen A. I'm coming from the fact of
Right.
from a PR perspective. To me, that's
Well, let
what
me
this
give
is
this
all
to the
about, and I think
players.
that's where the players can win.
Let me give this to the players, and Domonique, I'll give you the last word here. What I would say is it's our job, mainly somebody like me and others, to be on the forefront saying, yo, NFL, look out for these players. Yo,
Right.
NFL, do right. Do your due diligence. Make sure you exhaust every measure. Don't sit up there and throw these cats to the wolves. So in other words, the players will definitely win the PR battle because we're on their side, because we know it's the responsibility of the league and the owners
Safe
to
work
handle their
conditions.
business in this regard. All I'm saying is understand that at the end of the day, game's going to be played. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the last thing I'll say is that it seems like it's going to be impossible for them to complete the season. Like the point that Damien made off the top is the players are going to go into facility, 60 or so players are going to go into facility, also plus their coaches. Then they're going to practice and play against each other. Then they're going to go home to their kids who may be in school, go home to their wives who may be going to their jobs. And they're going to have all this contact and then come back to the facility. It may not be all teams, but there will be teams that are ravaged by this disease, and the season will be detrimentally impacted by this. If the owners of the NFL, the same NFL that hid head injuries from their players for many years, that same NFL wants to enter in another situation where they could be responsible for causing repulsive health impacts on their players and their families going forward. That's something that I don't think that they want to re-enter and be facing those lawsuits for years to come. It's maybe something that they're okay with, but I think they should be aware that the reason why the union exists is obviously to protect the players, but the union exists also to protect the league. The league, if they come to an agreement that the union agrees with, then they are protected because they will be able to say that the players agreed to this.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.